Hey, welcome back, Rankers. You got a second? You might want to get a cup of tea or a cup of coffee or a stronger beverage, depending on what time of day that you are watching this. So some days, someone throws you a story and you go, yeah. Other days, like yesterday, they threw a story and you go, whoa. So this may go on for a little while, so I'm just warning you. You may want to pause and go and get a coffee. Listen, while those other people have gone off and get a coffee, have a look at this. So, what happened was, last night, Chris Thomas, another SEO bloke, formerly of Melbourne, now in Hong Kong, said to me, have a look at this, Jim. And then the conversation went on for a couple of hours between the two of us as we started investigating a few things. So what Chris said was that he's got a mate in Melbourne that sells Ugg boots. And look, Ugg boots is a notorious area. It's an area of high competition. It must have high margins in it. That's all I can imagine. Maybe sheep are cheap. I don't know. Apparently lamb's not. I'm a veggie, so I can't speak to that. However, what I do know is that this is war online right now with Uggs, and I want to show you why. So what Chris said to me is, Jim, go and just go and Google this bloke's brand, which is what I did. And I Googled Urban Ugg Company. And you can see here right now we've got this here. Oh, that's great. Last night, that wasn't there. Chris has fixed that this morning or last night. But last night, their brand, their homepage, was missing from the index. And I'll show you another one in a second. And what was number one was this site here, fazmusicalboa.com. Now, this site here is a site based out of Portugal. It's owned by this band group festival thing. But then when you go in and have a look, and you can see here it says information wikihow1.asp. You go and have a look at that page. And it's our Urban Ugg Company. It's a replication of their site inside another site that probably doesn't even know it's there. And it was ranking number one for the brand last night, and the brand page was gone. Now, the other thing here to note too is that if I now click on that, you've seen it just in the cache, right? If I now click on that, which I've done, it takes me not to the site that was in the cache, but to this site. And this says Ugg Australia. Now, I've been told by another Ugg company this morning that Ugg Australia apparently is a pretty big brand for Ugg boots. It's kind of like the brand for Ugg boots. And they're publicly listed under another parent company. The licensee here in Australia is another mob called True Alliance, and I've been talking to, I've rung a heap of people at True Alliance today to try to get a comment from them about this. They're all overseas at a conference, but I couldn't get on to anyone, unfortunately. I've left a message with this guy, who seems to be the right bloke to speak to about this particular thing that's going on. I'm going to take you down this road a little bit further before we get into the meat and potatoes of this. This site here, though, Ugg Australia, is not this site here. And what I was told this morning by Tito Gonzalez of Ugg King, thank you, Tito, for your time, was that this is a big brand. They're gonna get into trouble for that, for hijacking everyone's searches, because that's what's going on. So let me take you through it again. So we go to, I'll just hit the back button here. We Google the brand. Let's Google another one. Let's Google Tito's brand, which is Ugg King. So you Google Ugg King, and you can see here we've got this sopersholemarina.com, right? And then we've got Ugg King down here. But once again, you can see there's no homepage here. The homepage is gone. Now, what happened to the Urban Ugg Co., which is the first one I showed you? Chris showed me some numbers last night. Their traffic had just dropped off a cliff about a week ago, and from Google, and they were no longer ranking for Ugg boots. And so that represented a whole heap of traffic for them. This one here, you can see, once again, it's a similar thing. And we've got this, you're probably starting to see a few patterns here. You can see here Ugg 6, Have a look at the cache version of that. And we have got not soperswholemarina.com, but we're actually taken to this site here, Ugg Australia again. Now, this one hasn't worked as well as the hacker would have liked. Now, I'm calling it a hacker, and I'll explain why in a second. But this is a common denominator that we've got here. And what I found is that these sites that have been hacked all have been served on a Windows server. It's everything from 2003 right up to 2012. So if you're on a Microsoft Windows server, Microsoft IIS 7.5 or greater, then you're using ASP, you may just want to make sure your patches are up to date and everything else, because there's a bit of a vulnerability going around, and I'll show you how I worked out that this is across more than just Chris's mate's site. So what I did was I looked at that the Urban Ugg Co, and I noticed that the page that was registering, and I'll just do that again, we'll just go back to Urban Ugg Co. So if you have a look at this page here, this isn't the one, this is interesting, this is fascinating. This isn't the one that was ranking last night. So that page there wasn't there last night. This one wasn't there last night. What was here instead was a page, oh, there it is there. Is this thing here, wikihow1.asp. This is just a query on the end of it. So wikihow1.asp was the page that was ranking. And that was a direct replication of the Urban Ugg Boots homepage. When I go and just Google in URL wikihow1.asp, it's going to tell me all the URLs that Google knows about that it's indexed that has that in it. You can see here we get all these Faz Musical Boa, right? But then down here we start to get these other ones. We start to get FocusVietnam.com, same thing. When you go and have a look at that, that actually is an Ugg shop ripoff. When we have a look at this CatholicBermuda.org, that is an Ugg shop ripoff. So all these pages here, they've all been injected into this CatholicBermuda.org site. So I haven't even looked at this CatholicBermuda.org site. But the commonality with all of these sites that have had this hack is that they're running on a Windows server. And so I'll just show you CatholicBermuda.org. There we go. It's the Diocese of Hamilton in Bermuda. However, when we go and have a look at their site, or I should say the results of this search, and we look at this Catholic Bermuda, we can see here that we've got this wikihow1.asp. Now I'll go and have a look at, say, the cache version of this one. You can see here it's women's shoes. The Diocese of Hamilton in Bermuda, probably not going to be talking about women's shoes a lot on their site. I would have thought. Call me crazy. That's not even coming up now. Here it is, right? So you can see here this is the Google cache, and it's saying, oh, these are all things about boots and shoes and things, right? And this is where it gets confusing. This is someone else's site that has been ripped off. I'm not too sure whose site this is that's been ripped off. But it isn't the final destination site. So what happens is, if I go back to the search results, and I just click on one of these, this is CatholicBermuda.org, it says it's going to take me to a page about women's shoes in the but bang, it takes me here. So so you saw something in the cache, that's not what we saw in the cache, right? So Google is indexing one thing on these hack sites, but the final destination page that you and I will end up is different. That's a symptom of cloaking, or a sign of cloaking, I should say. So basically, and we don't see it that often in our line of work. You'd think we'd see it more, but we don't, because these guys usually go under the radar. But this one isn't. And what's fascinating for me here is that Google, so let me explain cloaking. Cloaking is, you see your normal user come along, you throw them here, right? You see Google come along, you keep them at that wikihow1.asp page, which is just a rip-off of someone else's Ugg page. And that the reason you do that is because Google then will index and rank that page, which is what happened to Urban Ugg Co., which is what is happening to Ugg King right now. So Ugg King, this soperswholemarina.com, has a page on it called ugg6.asp. It is ripping off Ugg King because you can see here, Ugg King are the leaders in fashionable Ugg boots on the Gold Coast. Ugg King and the leaders in fashionable boots on the Gold Coast. This is the actual Ugg King site. This is not. This is Soper's Whole Marina, which just happens to be running on a Windows server. And if we go and have a look at Soper's Whole Marina, we can see that it ain't anything to do with Ugg boots, especially not Ugg boots on the Gold Coast. So Google is seeing the Ugg King page on this hacked page, ranking the hacked page higher and pulling out the homepage of this local brand out of the search results. So when I go and... Where's Soper's Whole Marina? There's Soper's Whole Marina. Nothing to do with Ugg boots, right? So this is big, and the reason it's big is because it's affecting all these sites worldwide. And I'm sure we're only looking at the tip of the iceberg. As Chris Thomas pointed out last night, he said, well, he actually said this is only the tip of the iceberg, as it happens. But if I go back to this search, I want to show you something else. And this will thrill the conspiracy theorists out there. You know who you are. Where are we? So we've even got a fashion law blog by a legal firm called Fox Rothschild. And their page, this particular page, happened to be talking about, I don't know what. I couldn't find any evidence of Uggness on this page. But this is a legal firm in the US. They've got over 500 lawyers. I've reached out to the person who wrote this blog post. So this can get confusing. So let me take you to this slide because hopefully it'll explain. So we've got our local retailer, right? Ugg King, Urban Ugg Company, and you could even say the Fox Rothschilds is the local innocent what just happened site. Okay. Then what happens is that a third-party site gets hacked. So the hack site, in this case, for Fox Rothschild, would be the comp building, right? compbuilding.com. So we'll come back to that. In the case of Urban Ugg Co., it is the Faz Musical Boa. In the case of Ugg King, it is Soper's Whole Marina. They're the hack sites. They're the third-party sites. They're the ones that are going, what are you talking about? What? What's going on? They have no idea they've been hacked. So then what happens is the local retailer's entire site is injected into the hacked ASP site. Then what happens is that you and I come along, the user, we're temporarily redirected to this site which purports to be Ugg Australia, but it's not. Okay. And what does Google see? Well, Google goes, yeah, this page is fine, I'll just index it. So Google doesn't get redirected, and that's what cloaking is. And what happens to our local, in the case of the brand that is claiming to be Ugg Australia, it's owned by this bloke out of Beijing. Probably not Ugg Australia, I'm guessing. The local retailer, what happens to them? Their rankings basically just drop off a cliff and they lose all their valuable traffic. There is a way back from this, okay, if you have been hit by something similar. But this is quite a sophisticated setup. And this is a really good, it's really good cloaking, actually. I mean, hey, it's evil, right? Don't get me wrong. But, geez, it's quite clever. So I asked my mate, Black Hat Bloke, last night, and I said, this is Ralph, or Phantom Master, as many of you know him on Twitter, and I said, "Look, have you got a good tool that can test to see if a page has been cloaked?" And he came back and said, "Look, if it's been done properly, you're not going to be able to tell. You won't see it if it's been done properly." Because he does this sort of stuff all the time. Don't get me wrong. I've got nothing against someone if they want a black hat, unless it's against one of my clients. Now, none of these Ugg people are my clients. But, sorry, I was going to make a terrible joke there. But in this case, if you want to go and do that, that's fine. If you want to go and do black hat like this is how cloaking works, right? There's an extra step in here which I haven't quite worked out yet, but this is how cloaking works. But if you do that, you've got to be prepared. What brand are you going to use to do that? Because it's a high risk strategy, unless you're using brands and domains you're fine throwing away. I mean, it's low risk for Ming Wu. Was it Ming Wu? I think that's what it was. Ming Wu. I think it was Ming Wu. It's a low-risk strategy for them because they're not using their own brand. I'm surprised, Ming Wu. I'm surprised Ming hasn't actually hidden who owns that final domain name that we end up at. Now, that final domain name, there's different variations of that. They're just junk domains. So Ming is obviously, hey, when this stops working, I'm just going to throw those domains away and do it again. So I said to Phantom Master last night, have you got anything? He said, nah. And I said, well, if someone wants to do Black Hat, can you direct us? And he's given us a link there. So you can get a 5% discount at this particular link as well. So if you want to do Black Hat, you need his tools, basically. Or cloaking, I should say. So what the Black Hats do, or what cloaking is all about, is knowing what, there's the URL if you want it, is knowing exactly when Google comes and looks at the site versus a user. And to do that, you need to know the Google Robots IP address, of which there are many, 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 many IP addresses. So this is like a calling card to your web server. So your web server knows, or your website knows, that this is Google coming in the front door. And everyone going, and the server going, quick, come over here. Thank you, Mr. Googlebot, over here. Now, you can't do that unless you've got or know the IP address of the Googlebot. So that's what's being done here. And for the normal humans, you just go and see this normal page. So this is quite a sophisticated hack. Now, of that, if I get back to that Fox Rothschild hack, let me just take you down to their side. That was quite, I mean, you can see here, there's heaps, right? All of these things here, you can see product.asp, Ugg, Phoenicia Group. Do the Phoenicia Group really sell Ugg boots, whoever they are? ermgovaffairs.com probably don't sell Ugg boots. So if I go back to this Fox Rothschild, though, because I went, the Rothschilds are involved, but it was just a law firm, and I'm just trying to find that. Anyway, the person who wrote that blog or contributes to that blog, I'll find it. Wrong screen, that's why it's not there. The person who wrote that blog, here it is, here is Stacey Riordan, and I private messaged Stacey last night, but she didn't respond. I said, hey, can you hit me up? I want to talk to you about a site that is basically ripping off your content. So, what do you do to get out of this situation? If you're in it, if you've been hit by it. Well, I'll take you through what the Urban Ugg company did and what I recommend. So I came in here this morning and I was putting all this up on our general bits and pieces last night. Our chat service, Slack. Slack is the chat service that we use internally. And I was putting these things up as I came across them, and Chris and I were working some things out. And then this morning I threw it open to the team in Vandy out here, said, actually, what's worked before for them? is reporting the offending site. So in this case, it's the site that doesn't even know that it's offending. It's the site that's been hacked. It's the Soapers Hole Marina. It's the Faz Musical Boa. It's the Comp Building, which is the one that is got the this one. All of those sites, it's actually reporting them to Google, is what you have to do. And you do it through the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. I know a lot of you have been around in this industry for quite a while. Will find that quite offensive because you know why that act came about, and it was mainly because of Napster and piracy back in the late 90s. But in this case, it's one of the steps you have to go through to get your site removed. Now, this is where it gets sort of confusing. You just saw me click on that link, that Comp Building, and this is where I've ended up. I've ended up at Ugg Australia in French, right? If I go back a step, take it back to those search results, you will see that Fox, where are we? Fox, where'd they go? So this fashion law blog for Fox Rothschild, you can see here it's on the compbuilding.com. If you go to the cache page, you will see it is the fashion law blog, but it's actually part of compbuilding.com. It's not part of this particular version of it, isn't part of it. If you click on it, it goes all the way through, of course. This is Comp Building. They're a website, design, development, and hey, they do SEO as well, company, but no one's been here for quite some time because all these links here, none of them work. There's a heap of other busted links. You hit the contact page. Anyway, products, yeah. Crickets, right? There's no one here at this website. So it's been hacked, and just been left alone. So you've got to report this site and that particular page on this site, which is, you can't surf there, right? This is the difficult thing. You actually just have to report that page, and hopefully when Google goes to have a look at it, they can see what they've indexed and not what you and I are getting sent to. And then if they do that, then they should remove it. So this is what Chris has done. In addition to that, he made a web spam report, and he found that his client came back into the top 10. The other thing that he did is that he went and did a refetch of the homepage, because with all of these sites, they didn't have their homepage. So you could even take another one, right? You could take one like, let's see. We'll take one of these. So we've got the Fashion Law blog. We've got Ugg King. We've got Urban Ugg Co. Who's this one? This one's probably still Urban Ugg Co, I think, because... oh no, here you go. This one's a rip-off of Ugg Australia, I think. Let's have a look at that one. So what I do first is go and have a look in the cache. See what Google's got in the cache. That's the page. It's this Korean YouTube page. How does that even happen? But then so that's the cache. But then if I click on the actual URL, let me scroll right down, I'll end up at, let's see where we end up at. It said Ugg Australia. I don't know if it is going to be Ugg Australia. No, it's the same one again. It's weird, I tell you. If you've been hit by it, though, here's a couple of steps you can do. It may not just be limited to the Ugg industry. Probably isn't. You can report to the DMCA, lodge one of those. You can do a web spam report of people that are, maybe ripping your content. You can then also do a refetch of your index homepage, because chances are that's disappeared from the search results altogether. Hopefully that is helpful. I'm going to take you through those steps one more time, just so you can see what the hell it is going on here. There's a local retailer, Ugg King, Urban Ugg Co., Fox Rothschild's Fashion Law blog. Then there's a third-party hacked website that works with ASP, and it gets injected with the entire site of that first site. Then what happens is that hacked ASP website is temporarily redirected to a site that says it's Ugg Australia, a very well-known, apparently well-respected Ugg brand. I didn't even know there was such a thing as a respected Ugg brand, but there you go. I know people at Maui are probably all a bit worried at the moment, but there's nothing we can do about that. Then Google comes along and says, yeah, this looks fine. So this is where the cloaking happens. And then it's not really owned by Ugg Australia, it's owned by Mingwu out of China. Now, I've found more than one site, all owned by Mingwu. So at the moment, all roads lead to Wu. And what happens to the local retailer in the meantime? Rankings drop off a cliff. So the way to fix it, Digital Millennium Copyright Act report, web spam report, refetch the homepage in Google Webmaster Tools. Hopefully that's helpful. If you're seeing anything else in this, let us know. If you have any theories why the major or the homepage of these retailers just disappears, let us know. Ones that we've been working on here is that, for some reason, Google is favouring that hacked site and is seeing it as duplicate content, but is only showing the hacked site as duplicate content, which is weird. That's the weird bit. That's the bit that I'm yet to nut out. We only started working on this last night. So if you've got, and I'm sure some of you out there who are doing the black hat know why that happens, but it's quite counterintuitive for me, because Google should not show the new site that has only just sprung up in the last few weeks. It should show the original that it finds. So in this case, Google has been well and truly tricked by a black hatter. Is this guy, Mingwu, actually selling Ugg boots? I doubt it very much. Is he taking credit card details? Probably. And that's it for this week. We'll see you next week. Thanks very much. By the way, another webinar coming up, end of month. Stay tuned, get on board, follow Stuart Media on Twitter, which is just Stuart Media, and you'll be across all the dates and times alternately. Hook up with us on Facebook. It's just facebook.com/Melbourne SEO, and we'll see you then. Thanks very much. Bye.